That's assault.
You can't.
He went for me.
Breaking right now, the Reform UK drama just exploded in a physical bust-up at Westminster between the party's Chief Whip Lee Anderson, the man who somewhat awkwardly is leading the investigation and the charge against the axed MP Rupert Lowe, and Steve Bray. If you don't know Steve Bray, by the way, he is the anti-Brexit lunatic, a very bad man. I do not think for a single second that if you're in Westminster constantly being hollered by this guy, you probably want to punch his lights out. However, given the context of everything going on with Reform UK at the moment, given these very high standards that are being placed on Rupert Lowe, in terms of a police investigation into a verbal bust-up, hurty words that he apparently threw at the party's chairman, Zia Youssef, some folk might think that this physical altercation between Lee Anderson and Steve Bray is very badly timed. Now, here's what I can tell you in terms of the breaking news. I am told that Steve Bray has now made a complaint to the police against Lee Anderson, claiming that he assaulted him. Now, I want you to watch the video so that you can see the full context of what went on.
You're a liar,
Anyway.
you're a cheat,
Anyway.
you're a coward, and you're a charlatan.
Anyway.
And the Reform Party is just UKIP
Stop shouting.
rebag.
You're like a bully. You're like a player.
No.
By the way, have you got a job yet?
I'm self-employed, I pay tax
No,
too.
mate, you're unemployed.
No.
You keep getting your words mixed up.
Self-employed.
It's unemployed.
They follow me, loser.
It's, what you are, Steve, is you're a scrounger.
Am
you're
I
a parasite,
now? Oh,
and
yeah,
You're a drain
yeah.
on the public finance.
You're a
Well, you'll be
coward.
able
Are
to
you
prove
saying
that.
I'm on
You are a
benefits?
man of interest.
Are you
to
saying
the
I'm on
DWP.
benefits? Are you saying I'm on
Well, we
benefits?
don't know.
Man of interest, DWP. This
Anyway,
is an
why don't you
MP
get-
lying
Let's
through
stand
his
up, stand
teeth.
up. Anyway.
Who votes
That's
for
it.
idiots like this?
Who
Who
for
votes
you?
for idiots
Who voted
like
for
you?
you? About 500 people.
How many parties have you been in, Lee? You just jump ship
And we're
wherever it suits you.
Guess what?
That's assault.
You can't.
No, he went for me. He just went for me.
No, he did. He did.
went for me.
Now this is the easy option.
You need arrested.
You're a coward, a liar, a cheat.
It's on camera. It's on camera.
Now, look, I have to completely agree with Lee Anderson. Steve Bray is a menace on society. Get a haircut and get a real job, you absolute loser. However, at the same time, I can see that this is really not what Reform UK wants to be dealing with at the moment when they're talking about professionalising, when they're literally throwing Rupert Lowe to the wolves under the bus by reporting him to the police. And the guy who's leading the charge is now being reported to the police himself. Now, apparently, by the way, I'm told, and I've been sent the fact that it's on the grounds of R versus Thomas, criminal law from 1985. And this is talking about what constitutes assault. The force applied does not have to be direct to the victim's body, and they do not need to feel the force. Touching their clothes can be sufficient. Now, of course, I don't think Lee Anderson did anything wrong there, but I also don't think Rupert Lowe did anything wrong. And we've got to be so careful. And this is the point that I was making yesterday. We have to be so careful about using the police and weaponizing spurious inquiries to try and destroy our political enemies. Now, you may have seen, if you were watching closely in that clip, that Martin Daubney, who is a close friend of Lee Anderson, but also a presenter on GB News, was filming the whole exchange from a different angle. He has just revealed his footage on air. Let's watch.
Westminster, take a look at my video.
500 people.
How many parties have you been in, Lee? You just jump ship.
And we're doing another party in a bit, I think. Guess what?
That's assault. No. He went for me.
There's a thug.
He just went
but a thug.
No, he did.
He went for me.
Now, this is the easy option. I've just used a thug. You need arrested.
You're a coward, a liar, a cheat,
It's on camera. It's on.
So there we go. It's fair to say it kicked off. Chris, let's talk to you. I was there. I was at PMQs with my colleague Nigel, walking back with Lee Anderson across Parliament Square. Lee was going to a meeting down towards Downing Street. He was spotted by Bray. Bray was on his PA, shouting across for everybody to hear that he was a coward, a thug, a thief, and he intercepted Lee when they crossed, and then it was man bags at dawn. What's your take on all this?
Well, really, I mean, Steve Bray is a campaigner. He's been outside Parliament on Wednesdays playing his eclectic choices in music, protesting about Brexit. One song called Zombie. He plays a revolutionary song. He plays a pastiche of other songs, often mocking the Tories and the rest. So there he is down the screen now, winning his Stop Brexit hat. I did note how Lee Anderson looked at your camera before he went for the hat. I think he wanted to check you were filming. Now, I've been.
And I can tell you that Rupert Lowe has now weighed in on this increasingly messy situation. He's just posted on X, following swearing at a parliamentary security guard. This is a pattern of bullying and aggressive behaviour from Anderson. I look forward to seeing how Reform deals with this concerning development. And Father Calvin Robinson, this is the issue when something like this scandal is used by Reform UK to try and weaponize the justice system, then they have to live up to those standards. And certainly it's something that we both felt when GB News threw us under the bus for completely spurious reasons. Everyone could see those reasons were completely spurious, and then has allowed lots of other behavior far, far, far worse to go on unabated because the mainstream media didn't pick it up. So there's lots to cover here. But firstly, do you think Lee Anderson did anything wrong? I think we can both agree that Steve Bray is a complete menace to society, a loser, someone who annoys everyone. But in the context, do you think Lee did something wrong there? But first, the reason you're watching this show is that it's becoming increasingly difficult to trust mainstream media or the so-called fact-checkers who claim to determine which facts are true. And there's a good reason for that, given the debate over free speech, the controversy surrounding Brexit, and how Trump and other politicians challenging the status quo are portrayed. So I've got the solution. It's called Ground News, and it's the best way to stay informed and cut through media bias and narratives so you can get the facts for yourself. Go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out right now, and I've got an amazing discount too. But let me show you this incredible website and app and action first. So let's look at the recent speech that Vice President of the US, JD Vance, gave to the Munich Security Conference. He tore into European countries, including our government here in the UK, over the complete rolling back of free speech, which is a real concern for me. And you can see that 361 sources covered this story. But what Ground News does, and it's amazing, is immediately show how the story is being covered, broken down by whether the organizations lean to the left or the right. This is called the bias distribution service. Now you can scroll down and see every article about the topic broken down by the political position and ownership of the publication. So, for example, Newsmax, GB News gave fair and accurate coverage, focused very much on how Vance was, I guess, being brave enough to point out some uncomfortable truths. But the lefty publications, of course, they went with their normal narrative. HuffPost claimed the speech left all of Europe aghast. It really didn't. The Independent decided to lead on a nonsense claim about a joke over Elon Musk. But what's more is that Ground News gets to know you personally. It provides you with the news stories you're interested in, while also analysing your own biases. So my favourite feature is this thing called the blind spot feed. It surfaces upwards of 20 stories every day that you might not be hearing about because of the corruption of the mainstream media. Now, I know you love the news, but you don't trust the legacy media. That's why you're watching Outspoken. What Ground News does is give you the tools to understand the truth. I have to be honest, it's now the only way I read the news because it allows me to see through manipulative mainstream media narratives. Go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out. Subscribe through my link for 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use for unlimited access. Ground News is subscriber funded, and supporting my sponsors also supports my work. So for less than a Netflix subscription, you can get all the world's news in one place and think for yourself. It's been a game changer for a news junkie like me. That's ground.news/outspoken. But now, back to the show.
Not a thing. Steve Bray is a menace. He's not a very nice person. He is always out there screaming and shouting at people. He harasses me every time I walk past, but I haven't been tempted to steal his hat. And I think that's all that Lee Anderson was doing. Lee Anderson's a lad. I like Lee Anderson, I do. He's very typical of many people that grew up in Nashville, which is the neck of the woods that I'm from. And I do know him, and he's a good man. But he isn't a professional politician. And I think that's what people like about him, to be honest. He is just rough around the edges. But at the same time, when Reform is weaponizing the law and saying things like, oh, we're reporting Rupert Lowe for being for harassing months ago or whatever, it's like, just come on, stop it. Let's all man up. It's the same for Steve Bray. It's like, it may technically be assault. It may technically not be assault. Who cares? He doffed your cap. For goodness sake, nobody was harmed. Men are so effeminate and so weak, and it's pathetic. If our ancestors could see how we live today, you call that assault? I'll get my sword out. It's just totally. It's lame.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. But this is why I was arguing yesterday, Father Calvin, that it was completely wrong for Reform UK to involve the police over what was a political verbal argument between Zia Yusuf and Rupert Lowe. And it's really interesting looking at the response, Father Calvin, from our Outspoken family who are watching this for the first time. Some folk, like MB, is saying Lee was aggressively finger-pointing and started the confrontation. Oh, no. But actually, most people, I think, feel like Kirsty D, who says, oh, for goodness sake, these guys all need to grow up. Can we get Anne Widdecombe to sort them all out?
Yeah, she'll pull them by their ears, won't she? I love Anne Widdecombe. She's fantastic. But, when Farage put that statement out that Rupert Lowe used harsh words against Zia Yusuf and also our whip, our chief whip is tired of hearing this foul language. I'm like, come on, Lee Anderson said and heard a lot worse than whatever Rupert Lowe has said to Zia Yusuf. It's all very childish. It's all very playground antics. It's petty. And it's beneath the station of elected representatives that sit in our Houses of Parliament, to be honest.
There has been another accusation against Lee Anderson over the past 48 hours. He's responded to this. This involves him shouting at a security guard in Parliament, and very unpleasant guy called Paul Harding. I mean, I don't know him, but I'm just judging him for being unpleasant based on this post. Asked Lee Anderson, do you beat your wife? You look like the sort of bloke who would. Word on the street has it Lee Anderson is a complete dick to the hard-working security guards guarding the doors of Parliament, demanding they open the doors for him on his arrival and get the hump when they don't. But Lee Anderson replied saying, what a load of rubbish. We are not allowed to open these doors. A button had to be pressed by security to open the door. Your comment is ignorant. But again, I would just say this is why Reform should never have put the microscope on the behaviour of their party members, because it doesn't matter. And, unfortunately, sometimes you do reap what you sow. And that's what's happening here.
It's that meme where someone shoots the person behind them and turns back to the camera and says, why have you done this to me? That's exactly what Farage has done to Reform right now. They had such good chances. They were high up in the polls. People loved Farage, and people that didn't love Farage loved Rupert. So there was room for everybody. And he couldn't stomach that. He couldn't stomach a bit of internal competition. And he's pretty much destroyed his own party because of it. Their chances are diminishing by the day now. And it's all his fault.
Can I just ask about Zia Yusuf, Father Calvin Robinson, the chairman of Reform UK? We haven't seen him at all this week. Up until this row, he had been very, very public, constantly on the mainstream media, constantly all over X. There's growing speculation that his involvement in the party has been part of the reason behind Nigel Farage tacking to the left, and certainly we know that the fallout with Rupert Lowe seems to have been a direct response from Zia Yusuf rather than anything personal initially between Nigel and Rupert. Is Zia Yusuf a negative force when it comes to Reform UK? And what do you make of these claims that he was on the left when he was in his younger years and also involved in the World Economic Forum?
My response would be, who is Mohammed Zia Yusuf? Who the heck is he? Where did he come from? All we know is that he dropped $1 million or so into Farage's bank account, became the co-director of Reform. There are two people who are actually members of Reform. It's Nigel Farage and Mohammed Zia Yusuf. And so he has all the influence because he has all the money. And so whatever he says is pretty much the direction that Farage heads in, unfortunately, which is why Reform hasn't been very vocal on Pakistani Muslim rape gangs, and why when Rupert Lowe raises it and asks questions about it in the comments, he gets in trouble. And this is why Farage has suddenly gone against the idea of deportations, mass deportations, repatriations, because Zia Yusuf himself is a Mohammedan. So the whole party has shifted not just to the left, but towards Islam, which is insane for a party that's founded on being anti-immigration to a mass degree. So who is he? Where did he come from? What's his agenda? It could be put forward that Zia Yusuf is essentially what makes Nigel Farage controlled opposition. He is the control behind the controlled opposition.
Yeah, and the World Economic Forum thing is that he was apparently a young leader. And you can see here, World Economic Forum strategic partners and industry partners. He was listed in his former corporate role. Are you concerned about a link to the World Economic Forum?
I'm always concerned about links to the World Economic Forum, especially since one of the few things that Farage said that I agreed with was that he wanted to cut our country's ties with the WEF. Of course, no formal ties, but all of our leaders go there, are influenced by it. The problem I have with this is that I can't see, there's no photograph, so I don't know if it's the same Zia Yusuf or it's another Zia Yusuf. It's hard to verify at the moment.
Yes, that's a good point. Are you concerned that Reform UK may have tapped Zia Yusuf specifically because he is a Muslim? They sort of thought this was a way in order to build the Islam support behind the party. Obviously, the fact he had a whole load of money and had just chucked in £200,000 and was very articulate was also part of it. But you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think it was a diversity quota thing. I don't think they thought, let's get a brown man to be chairman and then we can't be called racist anymore. Some people will see that. I don't think that was it at all. I know that Farage had been going around cap in hand for a long while, because I know some of the people he's spoken to begging and trying to take money from other people. So I think he was just happy to find someone that was willing to back him. And it's backing of Reform. It's backing of Nigel Farage rather than backing of Reform, isn't it? Really, because Farage is Reform, and this is the problem we're seeing, that it's just one person. If it wants to stand a chance, it needs to become bigger than just Nigel Farage. But he won't let it.
That is what's interesting, because certainly when you look at Zia Yusuf's role on social media, he's like the #1 hype man for Farage, which I guess is the role of a party chairman. But you could argue that he should have also been hyping Rupert Lowe. However, according to my interview with Rupert, from the day of their bust-up, which was in mid-December, all of Reform UK's accounts stopped posting anything from Rupert whatsoever. And he was also uninvited from party events, from press conferences.
It just looks very bad, doesn't it? And the thing is, the people who are let down the most are the voters, because the voters are crying out for something different, for someone different, to give them a chance to believe in democracy again in the United Kingdom, which seems like it's been lost for the last 2 decades. We have no hope democratically, no hope diplomatically, and Reform were giving people a little glimmer of that hope. And now that's been dashed for many people. So Nigel Farage, Zia Yusuf, and to some degree Rupert Lowe need to apologise to the British people, because all of this petty spat is beneath them, and they're letting the people down.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source. and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.